It ain't no dragon ruler, but we're out here blasting nonetheless. Hey guys, this is GamerGal, welcome to another Pokemon Trading Card Game History video, the start of the 2014 format here. We're into Plasma Blast, and honestly, there's a couple of cards in here that I really wish were printed like 2 sets earlier, because they would have actually made a pretty nice difference, I think, in the overall black and white format. I think a lot of people would have disliked EXs a lot less if this thing was printed much earlier, but it is what it is. So Plasma Blast is the last of the Plasma sets. It is the 105 card set, so not exactly ridiculously huge here, but it's still fine. There's a couple of very neat cards in here for both anti-meta and creating a new format sort of thing. And yeah, I actually kind of like this one, but it's another one of those sets where it's like there's no obvious new thing except for Virizion Genesect, which is fine, but like I guess we are kind of at that point now where a lot of sets don't really have more than one overarching like thing to go into, so maybe we're gonna have a bit of a harder time actually developing decks for everyone to play, or like playing different stuff every week, but that's okay. It's only going to be Sai and myself for the next 2 or 3 of these. We hopefully are going to get Pepper back in Worlds format when we get there. So there may be not quite as many decks shown, it depends. I'm probably still going to build like 2 or 3 different things, let's be honest, so yeah. So, we might as well get to the main thing of this set first, because as usually I would like to go over the trainers, but I think because of how dominant this deck was, we really should go over the like core archetype here first. That is Virizion and Genesect. Both of these cards do work in different decks as well. Now Virizion can be a really good bench sitter in other decks, but also Genesect can work in Plasma decks as well, if you so choose, because that ability is exceptionally good, and we'll get to that in a bit. Virizion EX, they're both 170 HP EXs, they both have 1 retreat too, so this is the return of Sky Arrow Bridge as a really good counter stadium here too. You don't really play Laser too often in this deck, because your numbers don't tend to benefit too much from it. Virizion's Verdant Wind also is an anti-laser too, this is why it's so good in other decks. Each of your Pokemon that has any grass energy attached to them can't be affected by any special conditions. You remove special conditions already affecting those Pokemon. So right off the gate, if you are playing a deck that doesn't care too much about its energy types, you will play grass, because you are able to use Virizion with it. Any deck that's playing Prism Energy for like the basic heavy strategies, that Prism counts as grass, so you can use it here as well. The Fire Blend Energy, Fire, Dark, Psychic, and Grass also works for this as well. So even Darkrai decks could potentially take advantage of this too, which is pretty great. Emerald Slash for a Grass and a Colorless does 50, so not a huge amount of damage, but you may search your deck for 2 Grass Energy cards and attach them to one of your bench Pokemon. It's acceleration as well, which is absurd. One of the main reasons this deck ended up being so great is because once you get 1 Emerald Slash online, you can then just keep building up extra attackers with it and still do a little bit of damage as well. Absolutely bonkers. Genesect, for its part, has Red Signal as its main ability, so when you attach a Plasma Energy from your hand to this Pokemon, you may switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with his or her active. Yeah, that's right, it's Ninetales, or Gust of Wind, or like Catcher basically, on an ability that works when you attach an energy. Now it does have to specifically be a Plasma Energy, so it is limited as to how many times you can do it, but only a little bit limited, because you can recover Plasma Energy with Shadow Triad, so that's great. One thing to note, if you use Chorus Machine, it does not trigger this, so that is something to be a little bit careful about. Megalo Cannon for 2 Grass and a Colorless does 100 damage and 20 to one of the opponent's bench, so it's very similar to Night Spear, does a little bit more upfront damage, does a little bit less to the bench. That can matter sometimes, but I mean 100 is a good number to like 2-shot anything through Eviolite, just about. Like you're 10 short, so you know, But it KOs anything basically in 2 hits that you want, which is just solid in general. It's very similar to Darkrai, but with the red signal effect here, and also having Verdant Wind access, these two just combine super well together. Now it's important to note that this is not the only thing Genesect can do, because Genesect in the lore of the games, we've got the Pokédex entry for it up here, right? It's Team Plasma altered this thing and attached a cannon to its back. Yeah, that cannon is represented in the form of 2 ACE SPEC tool cards here. So yeah, Victini only 1, White Kyurem only 1. Why does your mom let you have 2 tool cards, Genesect? It's because, well, it gets special treatment, I suppose. So the good one is G-Booster. G-Booster for 2 grass and a colorless gives you the G-Booster attack, and this does 200 damage. You discard 2 energy attached to this Pokemon, so not as expensive as a Black Kyurem, and it's also not affected by any effects on the defending Pokemon, so you just get to pierce through everything. Safeguard says what, right? You can just hit straight through it. And 200 of course is enough to one-shot EXs, so that is the main thing you are going to do with this. The not so good one is G-Scope, where it takes the same cost to do the attack that it has on it, and it puts 100 damage on one of the opponent's bench Pokemon. Okay, I mean, that's not terrible. We did see Raikou EX be used for a while, and it did basically the same, but for a relatively heavy discard cost. But the problem is this is a one-off ACE SPEC that's preventing you from playing stuff like Computer Search, which you would love, or Dowser Machine, which you would love just as much. And yeah, when you can just one-shot EXs, there's pretty much no reason to really play the Scope, right? And also, if Mr. Mime is in play, your G-Scope, your ACE SPEC trainer, is completely nullified, so there really isn't any point in playing this one. G-Booster, on the other hand, is absolutely absurd. Do note that both of these cards are Team Plasma cards, which means that Shadow Triad can recover them. We did mention in the Plasma Freeze set that Triad would actually come into play, and yeah, this is one of the reasons why. It's because you can get your G-Booster back, which is insane. So that's the core, biggest deck of this set. But there's certainly some other stuff that you can play in here too. We got our last 2 ACE SPECs. These are the last ones to ever get printed too. There are no more ACE SPECs after this. This kind of mechanic comes back in different forms, but yeah, this is the last ones we see. So Master Ball just gets a retooling because Great Ball does what the old Master Ball does, but this one sets you the deck for any Pokemon. That's fantastic, right? Unfortunately, this is one of the worst. Outside of the tool cards that are like Black Kyurem specific, etc., this is probably the worst ACE SPEC of all of them. And it's strictly because it is outclassed in the ACE SPEC slot, not because it's bad itself. I will say this now, if Computer Search didn't exist, I think you could make a case for Master Ball, because searching your deck for any Pokemon at no cost. Yeah, I know Ultra Ball is there, that's the other thing, it's like, oh, this is just Ultra Ball without a discard. But that discard is sometimes really annoying, and oftentimes, you're playing for Ultra Ball, and you still want another search for something like Genesect, or like, a Darkrai or something, which you can't get with a Heavy Ball. You just want another search card. This could have been that search card, but Computer Search kind of does that bit better, realistically. So yeah, it's outclassed, but if it came out at the start and Computer Search was here, I think Master Ball would have seen some play over the years. But it didn't, so, what ifs. Scoop Up Cyclone is pretty good. I mentioned in the rotation video that we actually lost Super Scoop Up for this year, and this is the one pickup card that we have. It just puts one of your Pokemon and all cards attached to it into the hand. Now, it's not commonly played, but it's not because the card is weak, because this effect is absolutely ridiculous. We have seen this before in Mr. Briny's Compassion, actually, and that card saw a lot of play, and that was restricted to non-EXs only as well. This can pick up your EX cards, no problem. Yeah, absolutely ridiculous card. You've just got to have the right deck to really want it. And I'm not sure if we are like there right now, but I'm sure if we thought about it, we could add this to stuff as well if we so chose. As far as other cards in here, we've got the like trainer cards, we've got the fossil stuff here. We actually have a new supporter in Caitlyn, which is a curious one. You put as many cards from your hand as you like on the bottom of your deck in any order, and then draw a card for every card you bottom decked. So it's kind of like a better Magical Mallet, I guess, if you know Yu-Gi-Oh stuff. It's fine. It's a -1 though, which on the supporter card is kind of lame, really. But I suppose if you're using a bicycle engine or something, you could maybe justify having this. Like, put all the stuff you can't currently play onto the bottom of the deck, hopefully draw some playable stuff, then use them and bicycle for new cards. I could see it, but I think it's probably too much effort for what it does. But yeah, it's fine. Energy Retrieval gets a reprint here. I don't remember if it had a print beforehand, so that's kind of cool. Iris actually gets a full art for the supporter card as well. I like this one quite a bit. I mean, the actual artwork is gorgeous, but during this turn, your Pokemon's attacks just do 10 more to the active opponent for each prize card the opponent has taken. So it's not a draw support, it's not even like quote-unquote utility support, like it's not a disruption supporter, but it gives you the opportunity to do more damage based on how many prizes the opponent has taken, which is pretty good. Yeah, I mean, we didn't really see Black Belt when that came out, and I guess that's the best like comparison to this card. Black Belt being when you were behind on prizes, you did 40 more damage to the opponent's active. That's a really strong effect, but this doesn't require you to be behind on prizes, so you can use this if you are winning and the opponent has, say, taken 3 prizes or something and just going, alright, I have a triple plus power now. And that's pretty solid. If you've got another way of drawing cards in the deck, like Electrode, or if you're playing a heavy bicycle line or something, you could easily see this doing work. It's kind of cool. Pokemon Catcher gets its reprint in here. This errata still doesn't come out until XY base, but yeah, Catcher gets its one like common reprint here, or uncommon reprint I should say. So this made a lot of people happy because it was a very hard card to get hold of. So yeah. Juniper gets a reprint. It's kind of funny actually this gets a reprint considering it was in the last set as well. Whatever. Rare Candy's here. Reversal Trigger is a new tool. If the Team Plasma Pokemon this card is attached to is KO'd by damage from an opponent's attack, you get to search your deck for any card and put it into the hand. That's kind of neat, but the problem, well, the main problem is Tool Scrapper to be honest, but the other problem is, once again, Team Plasma Pokemon are only fully evolved Pokemon. So yeah, you can attach this to a non-Team Plasma Pokemon, but it won't do anything until they become a Team Plasma Pokemon. And that often just ends up making it too awkward. And if you're putting this on 2 prizes, then I don't know really what you're doing with that. Surely you should just be playing like Eviolite or something if you're going to go down that kind of route. It really just doesn't do enough, and the opponent can also just gust around it too if they absolutely have to. So yeah, not a great card. We do get fossils for like Lileep and not Anorith actually for some reason. Anorith is not in here. It's really weird. Silver Bangle is a fantastic tool card for enabling a lot more lower power decks, we shall say. I'd have loved this for Ninetales if it wasn't for Virizion being out in this set. The attacks of Pokemon this card is attached to, excluding EXs, do 30 more damage to the active Pokemon EX. So this actually fixes Ninetales' numbers perfectly, where now if you have Laser Verbank Bangle, you are hitting 180 damage going into their turn. Absolutely awesome. Virizion is a huge problem though, but I guess if you can like snipe that, they have to have an energy, a grass energy specifically, on like every Pokemon, because Ninetales can just gust around it. So yeah, Ninetales and Moonga is still a pretty solid deck as it turns out, and this is a pretty good enabler for it. Silver Mirror is the answer for Team Plasma decks, and Team Plasma decks from here on out have to play Tool Scrapper if they want to do anything here. Prevent all effects of attacks, including damage done to this Pokemon, by Team Plasma Pokemon, basically, excluding EXs. This is the thing that, like, this generation stuff got right, where future generations did not. They took a page from Gen 3's book and being like, you can't put these on EXs and get effects from them. You can still attach them to EXs, but you can't gain benefits from them. Whereas stuff like Choice Belt or Choice Bands later on and whatnot as well, they just get their effects regardless, and it's kind of dumb. But yeah, you basically just make it so that the opponent can't touch you with Team Plasma Pokemon, so long as this tool is attached. This does require Team Plasma decks to play multiple Tool Scrapper, to be honest, because if you play enough of this, you can just kind of stop them from doing anything, which is pretty funny, but still, kind of sad in a way. I don't know. Ultra Ball also gets a reprint here, and that is our final of the trainer cards to look over here. We do get a couple of good reprints. Execute gets a print. I think this is very funny, but I don't like Shiny Execute, so that's why I'm not playing that one. Virizion gets a print. I mentioned this in the rotation video, but yep, non-EX Virizion gets a print here as well. I don't think you'd ever play it now, but hey, it's kind of cute, I guess. And Dusknoir gets a very cool looking shiny print here, so definitely don't mind that. As far as the other EXs go, there is one that doesn't have a full art, which is Kyurem EX. Yeah, just a regular one this time. And I think if Black Kyurem EX didn't exist from Plasma Storm, this card would actually be really solid. Outrage, I mean, it's 180 HP. It's got Outrage for 2 colorless to do 30 plus 10 for each damage counter on this Pokemon, so it's even stronger than the regular one is that way. And Giga Frost for 2 water and 2 colorless does 150, discard 2 water energy specifically on this Pokemon. It works with double colorless even on the second attack, which is really good. Discard 2 water is fine, you can recover those without too much of an issue. It's in water, so Blastoise is good for that. It's not weak to grass or lightning, so it's a bit harder to hit for weakness. And if you had Laser Verbank, then that's the 180 that you need for big numbers. The problem is mostly that Blastoise has a hard time fitting Laser Verbank in, because it's a deck that really wants Tropical Beach. And Black Kyurem basically does the same thing. It's a little bit less consistent because you've got lightning energy that you need to search as well, but it's not that much less consistent, and it does 200 without other qualifiers, and that's really the problem. Dragon is also just not something which is hit for weakness very often in other decks. You can tech against it, but it's just not really seen, so you don't have too much to worry about in terms of Kyurem's weakness. So yeah, it's unfortunate. It's not a bad card, it's just in the wrong environment. Onto a card that's really not bad. I have one copy of this on my PTCGO account that still needs to like migrate. And I love this artwork, it's so nice. Jirachi EX is a 90 HP EX, the lowest that we ever see. That causes problems in the distant future, but we'll unfortunately never get to that because it's expanded only. But it's a 90 HP EX, so it's levelable or searchable. Its attack is garbage, we don't care. Both this Pokemon and the defending Pokemon are asleep for 1 metal, 2 colors to do 60, are you kidding me? Nobody cares about that. The 1 energy retreat is decent because you can Sky Arrow Bridge with it, so that's good to know. But it's all about the ability, Stellar Guidance. Stop me if you've heard this one before. When you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench, you may search your deck for a supporter card. Reveal it, put it into the hand. Yeah, this is Lapras from Legend Maker, and I'm pretty sure there was another card that searched a supporter at some point as well. I know Tapu Lele later on does it, but I think that maybe there was another one? Maybe I'm just tripping, I don't even remember at this point. Either way, this card is absurd. It's very, very dangerous though, especially in this exact format where Catcher is not errated. This is a 2-prize Pokemon that you are putting down to get yourself into the game, which admittedly, that can sometimes be mandatory. But it's a 2-prizer that you're putting down to do so. We do not have Super Scoop Up anymore, as I mentioned earlier. So, yeah, this is dangerous to put down. But it searches your deck for any supporter. That could be the late game N, that could be the early game Juniper to get you into the game, that could be Chorus so you could shuffle, draw Ted, etc. When it comes out, that'll be Lysander so you can gust stuff as well. Could be a turn 1 Guesses if you really want to. There's so much you can do with this. Dialga, onto the dragon type stuff here. I don't know how Plasma managed to get hold of Dialga and Palkia. That just doesn't make any sense, but whatever. It's a 180 HP, 2 retreat costs, so the worst in the game at the moment. 180 HP is pretty big though. Dragon type, so is weak to dragon, and it's got 2 okay attacks. Psychic Metal colorless to do just 50, and if you flip heads you get a card from your discard pile into the hand. That's fine. You're never going to be able to power it up probably, but if you could, it's decent, I guess. And then fast forward for 4 colorless does only 90 damage, but for every plasma energy on this Pokemon, discard the top card of the opponent's deck. I personally just think Tornadus is 100 times better than this. Tornadus has got the Shuffle Draw 6 as the opening attack, and it actually kills things if you manage to get enough plasma energy on it. Mill decks like this just aren't successful at like any point. I mean, even if you double colorless, you've got to put 2 plasma on this, so it's 3 energy. You do 90 mil 2, like really? That's for 4 energy. That's just nothing. Yeah, very underwhelming card to be honest. The Palkia at least saw a little bit more experimentation. It's the same 180 HP dragon, 2 retreat cost. Dimension Heal is really bad, but we can mention it real quick. Grass Water, double colorless to do 80, and heal 20 for every plasma energy that's on this Pokemon. So at a base level, if you have 2 plasma instead of a double colorless, it does 80, heal 40, which yeah, is really bad. But, you know, sometimes you need that extra damage, especially if you put, like, Deoxys in play. You know, maybe you could do 90 with this or something. But it's all about the strafe attack on this thing. 3 colorless energy, so still expensive. It only does 50 damage, but you can then switch this Pokemon with one of your bench. This lets you switch back into stuff like the Stoutland to prevent the opponent from playing supporter cards. It goes into the Frostlass from this set, which is something I suppose. And yeah, when Gothitelle comes back, or Trevenant, that sort of thing, you could switch back into it there. Problem is, I think you're mostly better off just playing Excelgor for stuff like that. But this is a basic, it is Chorus machinable, so I guess there's some use for it there. Kind of clutching at straws a little bit, I think. The card is not that good, to be honest. On to the rest of the stuff. Masquerain is an interesting plasma Pokemon here. It's got the tool reversal attack, ability even, it's not an attack. As often as you like during your turn before you attack, you may move a tool card from your Pokemon to your hand. So the tool drop deck is something that comes in this set, and that's like the second archetype. We'll skip ahead a little bit to the Sigilif here so we can talk about how this works. Sigilif is a 90 HP Pokemon that does, well, not a lot in terms of damage, but Cutting Wind sometimes comes in. Psychic double colors to do 70, yeah, okay. But it's all about the toolbox effect here. This Pokemon may have up to 4 Pokemon tools attached to it. If this Pokemon loses this ability, discard until it only has 1 left. So yeah, Garbodor messes it up quite a bit. But there was the Trubbish in Plasma Storm that lets you do Psychic Colorless for 20 damage for every tool card that's in play. This lets you put 4 tool cards on a single Pokemon, and therefore you can get up to stupid one-shot numbers with a little 70 HP Trubbish. If you want to preserve your energy and stuff and accelerate properly, you'll need to do stuff like have Team Plasma Badge for a Chorus Machine, and have Experience Share so you can keep energy in play with that sort of bit. And Masquerain lets you move those to the Trubbishes as you need to, so you can do everything that you have to do. It's a very cool little combo, to be honest, and definitely a fun one to see. Credillia is gigantic meme territory. This card never worked because it's a fossil evolution, basically. But Life Explosion is very funny. For each energy attached to this Pokemon, search your deck for a Stage 2 Pokemon and put it onto your bench. So many things wrong with that, but first off, they've got to be in the deck, so you probably have to super rod them back in because you'll be discarding trying to get this thing in play. Second off, it's in grass that doesn't have wild growth at this stage, or energy trance, so like getting energy on this thing is crazy. And then of course, it's a fossil. It's a stage 1 of a fossil too, and yeah, it's just never gonna work. But it's very funny, and people tried to break it forever, so there you go. Tropius is interesting. It's a one prizer that you can play in the Genesect deck. It's lightning weak, which is curious. Also one retreat, so Sky Arrow compatible. Not level ball compatible, but you don't play level ball in that deck at this point. Its main both of its attacks are okay actually. For 1 grass energy, return does 10 damage and draws until you have 6 cards in your hand. That's pretty good for the early game if you don't start with a perfect setup, right? And then for 1 grass and 1 colorless, you do energy press for 20, plus 20 for each energy attached to the defending Pokemon. Not terrible. Like, it's not an attack you want to rely on, but it's perfectly fine for what we have here. This Shelmet over here is the best Shelmet if you ever want to play Excelgor, because it's just got Yawn to put the opponent to sleep. Still heavy ball searchable, so there is that if you are playing that sort of deck. The non-EX Genesect has Cold Family that lets you search your deck for 2 grass Pokemon, put them onto the bench, and then Jet Impact for 2 grass and the colorless does 80. If you flip heads, it does 20 more. This was very occasionally seen as like a one-off for having a single prize attacker into Sigilif stuff with the Virizion deck, so yeah, maybe it's worth it, probably not, but I mean, having something against Sigilif is pretty strong though, right? Blastoise, funnily enough, gets a reprint in here. I don't think this changes its legality ever. Maybe it does actually, because it got a shiny print in the last set, but I don't remember exactly what the rotation. I think it doesn't change it because I think you just go to XY on in 2016. But it's kind of cool. I really like the artwork on this one, so it's cool that it gets it. Suicune is here as another safeguard Pokemon, of just a different type this time. It's 100 HP, so you can't level ball search it like Sigilif, but it still has the safeguard effect where you can't be affected by anything on EXs, unless they shred you, I guess. And Aurora Beam for water double colors just does 70 damage. 2 energy retreat, so a little bit annoying. Sigilif is like more... it's nicer to play because it's a level ball searchable and it's got 1 retreat, but its attack is worse, and that 90 HP can sometimes backfire if the opponent's got like a shred based move, because they tend to do 90 damage, so yeah, it's alright though. The Frostlass that was mentioned earlier with the Palkia is, so long as it's active, the opponent can't attach any special energy from their hand to their Pokemon. That messes up certain Team Plasma deck builds, but most of the time they're going to be okay with it, right? Because a lot of the good Plasma decks play basic energy anyway. It's levelable and Plasma Ball searchable, so that's fine. And Blizzard for watercolors does 30 and then 10 to each of the opponent's bench. That's okay spread, to be honest, but yeah, I don't think the Floodgate effect is strong enough here. This Snova or Abomasnow line actually saw some play at the end of this format, because Pyroar ends up being really annoying in Gen 6 for the Virizion deck, right? It's a water card that can use fire, not fire, it counters fire, right? It's a water card that does grass stuff, and that's pretty good, right? It takes grass energy, you get to counter your main weakness. Its attacks are only like okay, right? Razor Leaf 2 grass 40 is not super good, but then you think about what you're doing in the Virizion deck, you just accelerate to this and it's great. Bang Heads is 80 for 2 grass and a colorless, and it confuses both itself and the opponent's active. But remember that Virizion blocks special conditions when you have a grass energy attached, so you actually don't confuse yourself. 80 and auto confusion is actually alright, to be honest. It forces the opponent to move away, so it's kind of cool. Both the Archon and the Tortuga over here, is it Archon or Archon? Never quite. I want to say Archon, but whatever. Both of them have the Prehistoric Call ability here, where if it is in your discard pile, you can put it onto the bottom of the deck. So this can prevent deck out if you are so worried about that sort of thing. But the main reason to note this is because putting it on the bottom of the deck means that the fossil cards can actually go ahead and recover them, right? You can put it on the bottom of the deck, like discard it with a Juniper or an Ultra Ball, put it to the bottom of the deck, and then use the fossil to guarantee that you get it onto the bench. I should note the Lileep also has this ability as well, so if you were to try and play the Credilli, then at the very least you have some way of getting it there. The actual Caracosta isn't worth noting. Yeah, 100 for free if you discard a fossil is terrible, so who cares? But it's mostly the noteworthy sort of aspect to this is the fact of it's very searchable. Like, Tortuga is the most searchable because it's level and heavy ball compatible, so that's kind of neat. And also, you can use it to prevent deck out, so it's just kind of cool. Personally prefer Execute, but Execute is something you can start with. You can't start with a restored Pokemon, so this could be an extra discard fodder sort of thing as well. The Electros would have been really fun if we kept Electric, but we didn't, so Crush and Burn just doesn't really have any compatible targets for it, unfortunately. So yeah, bit of a shame there. The Drifloon and Drifblim, especially Drifblim, but even the Drifloon I think was okay. Yeah, 3 colors, Snipe 40, I mean that's expensive, but it could work. 70 HP is the main thing for this, to be honest. But the Drifblim is pretty solid. Team Plasma decks were all the rage, right? Genesect itself is still a Plasma Pokemon, so even the new deck in Virizion is going to be able to enable this. And Drifting Balloon costs, makes your attacks cost 1 less for each Team Plasma Pokemon in play. On the opponent's side, not your own as well, right? That would be very silly, very funny though. Would be really cool for a anti-Plasma pick in Plasma. Would have been really neat. That's not how it works though. Anyway, Derail for 3 colorless energy does only 70 damage, but it also discards the special energy from the defending Pokemon. So this really is you are not allowed to play Plasma if you go against this. The other added benefit of this card is that it is in the Drifblim line, and if you remember the Drifblim from Dragon's Exalted, it does, for 1 colorless energy, 50 damage for every special energy in the opponent's discard pile. This fuels that. So yeah, you go with this one, you derail, you get some damage down, you discard the special energy, and then the other one lets you do crazy one-shot damage when you put enough of those special energy away. It's a really cool combination, and in the same evolution line is nice too. Yeah, there's some good stuff you can do with this. Also, double colorlesses and stuff are still in format, right? So being able to discard special energy in general is just quite nice. So yeah, it's a cool card. I don't know if we'll see it, just because it's kind of hard to tech into a deck just to conceive of going, yeah, I'm just gonna go for it here. But I mean, sometimes you do that. Right, you just play a 2-2 line of this or something, and okay, maybe those 4 cards aren't useful in absolutely every matchup, but in the matchups they are good in, they're going to just win you the game, so it's pretty great. Nothing else here relevant. Unfortunately, the Pixies never get a good card ever again. If you have all 3 of them in play, then each of your Pokemon have got no weakness, but then you've got 3 bench slots which are taken up with useless cards, so bleh. The Reuniclus, there's actually a good naming theme in here. For some reason, Grimsley is missing a card. I don't know why he doesn't have one. But the rest of the Elite Four, as well as the Champion, have their own signature Pokemon in this set, and they all have a signature attack. Telekinesis of Nobility is just a really fun name, but it's basically just a hit and run based attack on stage 2, 100 HP guy is useless, but whatever. The Golurk over here has got Iron Fist of Justice, which is fantastic naming here. It's okay as well, I guess. On a non-EX, so you could Silver Bangle this thing. 60 is the good sort of weakness number at this point if you're a non-EX. If you have any Team Plasma Pokemon in play though, this attack does nothing. 60 for a DC on a decently tanky stage 1 is pretty okay though. The Sock is actually kind of good. It's a Kick of Righteousness. It's 90 HP, so levelable, searchable, Sky Arrow compatible with that 1 retreat too. And then yeah, Kick of Righteousness does 10 damage for 1 colorless, but if the defending Pokemon is a Team Plasma Pokemon, it does 50. Which then means, you put the Silver Bangle on this, you're doing 80, and then you just, 1 laser, even without Verbank, you're one-shotting the opponent's Thunderous EX. So if you're having a really hard time with Plasma, then this is not a terrible card to put into the deck. So yeah, worth keeping in mind. The Houndoom is one that we were speculating maybe that should have been Grimsley's card here, because Blazing Claws just basically has the anti-plasma thing, but without the name thing. But Grimsley doesn't have a Houndoom, he has like a Bishop, and there's no Bishop in this set, so I don't know exactly what they were thinking on that one, but hey. And then the Haxorus has got Strike of the Champion, which is also a very cool attack name. If the defending Pokemon is a Team Plasma Pokemon, it's knocked out. It takes a Fighting and a Metal to do that, so... The real thing with this, it's a bit of a shame that we lost that Klinklang, to be honest, because the thing here is Dragon Axe is kind of cool. For one metal, for any number of metal basically, 40 damage times the number of metal energy attached to this Pokemon. That would have actually been kind of neat if we could have done some sort of metal trans max potion thing maybe with this. Probably would have been too many cards to like fit in the deck, but you know, thin line of this to sort of be a finisher or something, that could have been cool. But no, we can't have nice things because that rotated. And I think the last like actual noteworthy card here is kind of a sad one, to be honest, but it's there, I guess. On a stage 2, this sort of ability isn't good enough, but the Porygon Z over here has Plasma Transfer, so as often as you like during your turn, you may move a Plasma Energy from one of your Pokemon to another one. Yeah, Plasma Energy is not that noteworthy, so that you want to transfer them around on a stage 2 of all things, but a lot of the Team Plasma Pokemon do extra things if you have a Plasma Energy on them, so maybe... But I'm certainly not going to be out there building Tornado CX Porygon Z anytime soon, right? So, yeah. And that's it. This set is very strange because, like, it only really introduces one direct new archetype, but the tool drop deck is also incredibly fun and very dangerous to go against too, so we're definitely going to have to try and show that off. And there are still a couple of things from the previous format that I think are worth noting as well. We never managed to get Blastoise Black Kyurem on recording, so that would be worth noting. But we've got 2 sets basically of this kind of format, so we'll definitely have to show that off at some point soon. But yeah, little set to basically cap off Gen 5. It's decent. I really do like the Virizion Genesect stuff though. It's nice to see Grass actually get a good card for a change, right? So anyway, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you found this interesting enough. And I don't know exactly when this is going up in the grand scheme of things, but we'll get everything going. We have a little bit to do in terms of the battle stuff as well. It's only going to be the 2 of us like I mentioned before, but that's more than fine because we'll show off what we need to anyway, and it'll be fun. So yeah, till then, take care.